Okay, so let's get started. Really, the focus here today is to discuss some of the challenges or a few challenges that many people have when it comes to fundraising and building better relationships with their donors. This is something that you could speak for hours about, and everyone has their own ways and means of doing it. But what we're going to be focusing on specifically is some key principles, and one of them being building better fundraising habits. And then we'll go into an explanation and a demo of how PhoneRaise really helps you stay connected with donors, engaged, and ultimately enhance the relationships that you have through using your own fundraising strategies, but having a tool that prompts you and reminds you and notifies you when to engage and how to engage. Okay, so let's get started. Again, the focus is engaging with your donors, elevating your organization, and that is done obviously by raising more money so that you can do more good. And just to get started here, what are the fundraising challenges that many people deal with? A lot of this revolves around momentum. If you're in a good flow and you're in a good stream of engaging donors, you'll be more successful. So what stops you from that type of momentum? If you don't know who you're supposed to be engaging, you don't know who has capacity to give, who doesn't have capacity to give, you don't know who your donor base is, that's obviously going to stop you. If you don't have data at your fingertips or close by where it tells you when the last time somebody donated or other important information about donors, whether it's birthdays and things like that, you're not going to have the ability to reach out to somebody during important times. If you don't have a structured plan of when and how you're going to engage with people and when's a good time to reach out to them, and there's no plan in place for you, well, chances are nothing's going to happen. And then when all of those things come into play, you don't feel very accomplished. You're not sure what you've done that day. You're not sure who you've reached out to. You have no recollection, or you have no understanding of was it a successful day or not. There's no way to track what you've done, who you've reached out to. And all of these really stop your momentum from engaging with donors. Okay, so ultimately, what does that cause you to make? How does that make it hard to fundraise? So first of all, you can't solicit gifts effectively if you don't have a structured engagement plan and you're not engaging donors. It's very, very hard to ask donors when you haven't been in touch with them regularly. That's pretty clear. You don't know the crucial times of donors and when to connect them. Do you know their birthdays? Do you know when they have a yard site? Um, do you know what's going on in their lives? Probably not, because you don't have any engagement plans. You haven't been in touch with them on a regular basis, and that limits your capacity to build a better relationship with them. Um, Growing your donor relationships. Again, part of the same concept is if you can't connect with your donors at crucial times, then it's going to be much harder for you to build a relationship, because ultimately fundraising is about personal relationships. And if you're not going to connect with them on their level, and they're not going to feel recognized and appreciated, which goes into our next one, um, then they're not going to reciprocate. And ultimately, if you don't have if you don't know who needs to be engaged, you don't have an engagement plan, it makes it hard for you to reach out to a larger circle of donors. So it's not only about building better relationships with a specific group, but you can also enlarge your fundraising circle if you have the ability and you have a structure to do that. So all of these things, fundraising is hard enough. We all have that challenge. We know that reaching people is difficult. Building relationships with people that are not necessarily looking for a relationship with you is hard. And if you don't have a system and a plan or a structure or a platform, any of these things in place, then the chances of you trying to do something hard is very difficult. And if you read, there's a book called Tiny Habits, and in there there's a graph that explains to create a new habit that's very hard to do is extraordinarily harder than doing something that is easier to do. It's much easier to create habits around things that are easy to do versus things that are hard to do. So how can we make fundraising as easy as possible? Because if we make fundraising easier, then it becomes much easier to build a habit and do it on a regular basis. Okay, and then let's focus a little bit on some of the most important things of donor relationships. We've just discussed some of the struggles and some of the challenges and how certain things can make it hard to fundraise. So if you don't have a consistent and transparent way of communication with a donor, if you're not engaging them every 2-3 weeks, in a meaningful way. Not sorry, every 2 or 3 months in a meaningful way, that makes it very difficult to build a relationship. If you're not actively listening to a donor, and one of the most powerful ways to show that you're listening is when after a call you have notes of what happened on the call, and this person told you that their nephew's in a hospital, or this one's child's in college, and you can recapture that information and then share it with them the next time you're calling and ask them how their nephew's doing or how their son in college is doing. Obviously, that shows that you're listening and that you care what they're saying to you. So that's a crucial piece, active listening. For us with kids, that is hammered into us at every moment. Long-term relationship planning. So it's not just about what you're going to speak to a donor today, but is there a plan of, okay, today I'm going to call them, but then in 2 months I'm going to make an ask, and then what's the game plan after that? Am I going to steward them? What's the stewarding look like? So if you don't have that strategic plan of how you're going to engage your mid-size and your larger donors, it becomes very difficult to know what you're going to be doing in a structured and organized way. Celebrating milestones is a powerful and a easy way to connect with donors, because anybody who's wished happy birthday is obviously very thankful, and it's another way of showing that you care, and that obviously goes a long way. That when you're calling them for a milestone, that they feel like you care about them. And then the fifth one is acknowledgement and appreciation. So, thanking them for gifts, recognize them in public ways, private ways, through letters, through conversations, through ads, a variety of different ways to recognize donors. But sometimes that gets lost. As soon as the donation's in the bank, sometimes you move on to other things. It's crucial to raise more and more money, and sometimes the people that just gave get forgotten about. So obviously, this is a key piece that and we're not talking about token recognitions with a form email or letter in the mail, but a acknowledgement and recognition in a personalized way. So these are just very key principles that get forgotten about. And really, that's where we're going to talk about PhoneRaise here. PhoneRaise, we're focused on making sure that PhoneRaise enables that these principles are easier to accomplish with the use of PhoneRaise. So let's talk a little bit about what fundraisers need, and after we've discussed some of the challenges and some of the principles of fundraising. So what do fundraisers need? And then we'll dive into PhoneRaise. So fundraisers really need a system that obviously makes it easy to engage donors. We said that it's hard enough to connect with donors. They don't need additional headaches to additional hard technology or convoluted systems that they have to try and figure out and get distracted on. They need something that's simple to use, intuitive, and keeps them focused on engaging their donors. Something that provides a customized donor journey or touchpoint flows. So essentially helps them craft a plan of what they're going to do today to engage donors. It has to work with any fundraising strategy. So, any system that you're going to use, it has to work with whatever system you've planned, whatever type of moves management plan you have, whatever type of donor engagement. So it needs to be flexible, and obviously it needs to help build better fundraising happens. Countless times we see people get excited about tools, fundraising tools, different things. And what happens is after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, maybe a month, it falls out of style, and the flavor of the month moves on. And that's because a habit was not built around using that tool. If you think about our own lives, everything is made up of habits. The things that you do, without thinking, they're all habits. And so the goal here is fundraisers need something that that will not let them get distracted with other fundraising related administrative tasks or other things that need to get done. They feel like they have a strong routine, and if they don't engage their donors that day, they feel like they're missing something. Just like if you forget to brush your teeth that day, which is a habit that we do automatically, you'll feel gross. And really, that's the crucial piece here is if you can't build a habit around something, whether it's in a certain time of the day or it's connected to some other reward, that if I do this, then I can get onto that. I can raise more money, obviously, but if that is not baked into your goals, it becomes very easy to lose focus and move on to other things. Finally, it obviously has to work with tools that you're already using. Anything that's going to create blockages or frustrations is going to create additional challenges. And so the goal would be to make sure that that whatever tool you're using works as seamlessly as possible with your CRM and other fundraising platforms. Okay, so let's talk about PhoneRaise and how PhoneRaise is a solution to some of these things. So fundraising is comprised of really two campaign types. For the most part, until now, we've really been talking about engaging donors, and that's a big part of the presentation today. And we'll go through that. But engaging donors obviously is daily donor engagement. Every day, you're spending 20, 30 minutes calling, texting, emailing donors in a personalized way, asking them how things are going, preparing, building a relationship so that when you're ready to make an ask, it's a comfortable ask. And we'll get back to engage campaigns soon. The other one, which we haven't talked about, which is actually the campaign that we've been sort of it was our initial build out in PhoneRaise, is raise campaigns. So as we move into end of your fundraising season, if you have a giving day, a matching campaign, Giving Tuesday, anything that's a quick fundraising campaign of 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and you're bringing on either other staff members or volunteers or ambassadors to help you reach out to donors. Raise campaigns do a very, very effective job of that. Through just getting a text message link, they can access their donors. The volunteers can call the organization's donors. They can text them, and makes it much easier for organizations to track what happens on the campaign. No more paper, no more Google spreadsheets. Everything is done in a simplified tool. And we've had countless organizations been using this type of campaign for several years already. And with that, we'll dive into a demo first of raise campaigns and how raise campaigns work, and then we'll move into a demo of engaged campaigns. Okay, so for raise campaign here, what I've done is we've done a bit of a video instead of sharing my phone, which is a little bit more convoluted when it comes to a webinar. I created a basic video of what it looks like for a volunteer or an ambassador to use PhoneRaise. So you'll see right here, this is a text message that I got, and you'll see it says, "Hi Stanley, here's your PhoneRaise link." Here's the link. This is a customizable link, and you'll see that you click on it, and that right away brings you into your PhoneRaise app. So this is a mobile web app. If you don't need to download anything, it's right on your phone. And you'll see right away there's a card-based view. Each card is a contact or a household, and you can swipe from card to card. And we'll go through this video here. So the first thing a person clicks on is they want to call that person, and text the person, and they can choose who they want to text, Alex or Paula. And once they text them, you'll see what happens here. It will open up, and the text, there's messaging templates that you can create. You can personalize it. So this person's name is Alex, and we have the volunteer's name is personalized in there, and so the name of the campaign. So you can personalize custom text messages, and you don't have to type anything new. You just hit the text message and you hit send. The value of doing this over bulk text messaging is that bulk text messaging consistently is getting stuck in text message spam folders, and people don't see them, and it also comes across as pretty spammy. This is a personalized text message coming from a volunteer's phone number or staff member's phone number, and you have the ability to personalize each message before it's sent out. So it makes it much easier, and it skips all spam filters. Now, what happens is, if you just notice, you can then choose the status of what happened on the call. In this call, they marked as texted. The statuses are all customizable. So if you have different types of statuses you want to name, you could do all of that as well. You'll see there's notes here. You can leave a note of what happened on a call or a text message, and so on. So then we'll go to the next one. You see we swipe to the next card. Now it's Sue and Jemiah Horn. Very intuitive, very straightforward. They want to go to the next person. In this one, we'll play the video. You'll see they're going to press the call button. Yep, they press the call button. Now soon, and they can choose who they want to call. And we skipped the actual making the call, but then they go back and they say, okay, what happened on the call? The person, oops, I just went back to the beginning of the video. The person donated on the call. Let's go back to where we were. And so the person, so they clicked on the person to call, they called the person, and then the person decided to donate on the call. And so then you could put in, if they clicked donate on the call, you can also put in how much they donated, any notes you want to put in. You can put all of that there. So then this is being entered, and then they'll hit save, leave a note, and mark it as save, and then they move on automatically to the next person. So a pretty straightforward process. You can also WhatsApp, which is going through over here, and we don't have a WhatsApp status here, but you could just put texted, and again swipe to the next person. If you swipe on something without moving on, it warns you that you didn't save it, so it asks you what you want to do. That eliminates any concerns about volunteers not missing out on clicking the save button. Okay, so now you have, if you see over here, you have um, information, ask amount, 2021 campaign city. So you have customizable data points that you can import when you're bringing your data into PhoneRaise. So you can choose what the most important data points are for your volunteers to see. So what you want them to ask a donor, obviously, is going to be important. What they gave in a previous campaign, what city they live in, and again, these are suggestions. You can customize this to fit any need. The other piece is the other point, which we'll get to in a second, is if you go into the detail section, you'll be able to see more contact information, more custom information. So here, before we get that, we're going to go into the payment button. So you'll see on the bottom left, there's a payment button, and you can then, depending on which fundraising platform you're using, you can actually integrate payments within PhoneRaise. So if you're using Rallybound, which is the mockup you just showed, as well as Raisethon, you can just take their payment right away and process their payment on the spot. If you're using Cause Match or Charity, it opens up a new link, but populates all of the donors' information. And if you're on a call and somebody gives you your credit card information, you can actually process the payment very efficiently and very quickly without having to open up the full platform and process it. So it makes it much faster for a volunteer to process a donor's donation while they're on the phone. And then the last piece on a raise campaign here that it's going to go through is the detail section. So you can see you can add more information. So not just the 3 data points in the front, but if you have more information that you want a volunteer to see, it shows up in the detail section. And again, you could put more data over there. Then the other piece that other things over here is you'll see on the bottom there's four different icons. At the bottom left, it will give you a list view of all of the volunteers that have been assigned to, all of the donors that have been assigned to you. And makes it, if you want to make it go through it much faster, you can look at your list view and see who is on your list. This piece over here is something that we've released in the last couple of months. We have 2 additional features that you can now do. A volunteer can now import their own contacts from Google Contacts. So if they have Google Contacts, they can bring them in, and makes it easier for them not to only reach out to the organization's contacts, but they can also now reach out to their own personal contacts and ask them for a donation. And the other piece is searching for contacts within an organization's list. So this is obviously you can turn on or turn off. Both of these features you can turn on or turn off in the admin panel. We'll show how that works later. But in this situation, you'll see here, oops, we went out. Let's go back over here, back to the video. You can see right over here that these are all the organization's contacts with a data point, and he's choosing which ones he wants to add to his list. And once he adds them to his list, they'll be taken off of the general unassigned list, and they'll be included for him. Anything that's unavailable, you see there's an unavailable button. Again, you could choose if you want to let the volunteer see what's unavailable, but those are people that the organization has already assigned to other people and is no longer available for them to choose. So they can choose those, assign it to them, and then those get added to their campaign. And that's the basics of the Raise campaign, the front end. And with that, we'll go into the back end. And we'll go to the back end. Bring up, okay. We'll go into the back end, and this is the back end of PhoneRaise. And this is where you manage all of your volunteers, your contacts. So this is what you'll see on your contacts. You can click on a contact over here and get all of the information that you've brought in about that contact. Any custom data, it's all here. You can make custom list views, customize how you want to see. There's very powerful filters, filter section as well that lets you filter based on a lot of different criteria, and so on. All of these columns are sortable, but essentially there's a whole bunch of different ways you can look at your data that you've brought in and assign. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the we'll go to the assignment center and talk about that first. Here's a list view. This shows you all of your volunteers or your ambassadors that you've added, and there's a lot of different. You can very easily assign donors to ambassadors, and we'll get to that in a second. But again, you can see any of your ambassador or volunteer information here, and so on. There also is the ability to add custom data, and there is some integrations with fundraising platforms, specifically CauseMatch. If you have ambassadors in CauseMatch, there is a way to bring them over and have them show up in PhoneRaise. I want to show you the assignment center, which is pretty powerful. There's so many different ways that organizations want to assign donors to volunteers. Some of them don't care who gets what, and they just want to have one click where, let's say they have 2,000 donors. With one click, you can assign 2,000 donors to all of your volunteers. Some have very specific, criteria or strategy of which volunteers should get which donors, and so we accommodate pretty much both of those and everything in between. So the first one is the bulk assign. So assign all contacts to all users. You have the ability to equally assign. So right now in this example, all of the prospects, all of the contacts have already been assigned. So nobody's going to get anything new unless I reset the assignments. If I reset the assignments, that will overwrite the assignments that's already happened, and then 7 users will get 641 people to contact each. So there's 7 users that have been assigned. Users are volunteers. There's 7 users that have been assigned to this campaign, and it will equally divide up the 5,000 or so contacts into 641 each. You can also then assign specific ambassadors or volunteers to get X amount of donors each. So, for example, I can assign 20 to these 3 ambassadors. Obviously, in this case, it's maxing 0 because they've already been assigned. And then for an organization that wants to get into the weeds about custom assignments, they want to give volunteers based on set criteria. So in that situation, they would go back to the contacts table, and then you can create a filter. So let's create a filter here. Let's say I want an ask amount to be greater than, let's say, $10,000. So we have a custom field over here with custom data that says what the ask amount is. I want to ask anybody. I only want to look at people that have an ask amount of 10,000 or more. Give me a second. Let's move it over here. So now we have, let's see where the ask amount is. It's probably closer over here. Oh yeah, here's the ask amount. So you'll see now that only high ask amounts are showing up. There's only 671 entries out of 6,000, and I want to assign all of these 671. I only want to give it to. I'm going to select all, and I only want to give it to one specific user. So I'm going to assign it to a user. Who do I want to give it to? I want to give it to Arthur Balfour. So Arthur Balfour will now get these top level donors because I think he's the best one qualified to engage those. So with one click, or a couple of clicks, I can create a basic filter, and then with show me only those donors that are high level donors, and then with one click, I can assign it to a person. So you have full control over how you assign, who you assign, and so on. Just going back to the assignment center for 1 second before we move on, is you also have different assignment settings. You can notify the user, which is the volunteer, if you add new contacts to him. You can auto assign. So if a volunteer finishes their list, meaning everybody has a status assigned, they've gone through everybody, you can automatically assign however many more contacts to that user so that they can continue engaging people. So that's a new feature that we've also released. And then the user imported contacts and the user self-assignment, so the ability to use Google Contacts and adding people to the list. Those are features I showed you in the front end, and this is where you can turn them on or turn them off. And so that's the basic of user assignment, a very powerful piece. And then just quickly to go through the campaign details, You can control your statuses of what your statuses you want them to be. There's also the ability to filter. There's different display options, what information you want your volunteers to see, what channels should be available. Should you have text, phone, email, WhatsApp, and then messaging templates. So all of the default messaging templates and custom, you can create as many messaging templates as you want for text, WhatsApp, email. All of that is available. And then third-party applications is any integrations that we have. This is where you can create those integrations and so on. So that's the Raise campaign version of if you're having a matching campaign and you want to assign volunteers to donors to engage them in a quick one-off campaign. Now let's move on to the Engage campaign. And I'll just answer a few quick questions over now. So one question was, are we discussing Raise campaigns or Engage campaigns? Right now, until now, we've been discussing Raise campaigns, which is our forgiving days and matching campaigns and so on. There is no limit on the data that can show up on the screen. I mean, you can upload an unlimited amount of custom data points. At some point, we may cap that because it just becomes unwieldy. But you can upload pretty much any data that you want. Obviously, the more data you load, the more overwhelming it might become. So you have to be careful. And you also can control what data the volunteer sees. So you can upload a lot of data that just the organizers and the users in the back end want to see without the volunteers seeing that data. This is not a replacement for a CRM. That's a question that somebody asked. This works with a CRM, I'm not going to get into the details of that, the strategy and so on, but that is not supposed to be a replacement. It doesn't process any donations. It doesn't do event management or other tools that a CRM will do. But it's designed to work. It's designed and priced to work with a CRM. Any other questions? Let's take a quick look over here. You cannot break texts into separate messages. However, in most modern cell phones today, even if you have multiple text messages, it just comes up. Even if you have like a text message that's 200 words or 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 characters, usually it doesn't break it up into separate text messages. It usually just combines it. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but you can't set a series of text messages. I'm not sure what the strategy behind that would be. Also, at this point, you currently cannot add pictures in the template. That is something that we would obviously want to add. Okay, let's move on to Engage campaigns. Right now we're looking at, so this is what I'm using now is sort of a mock-up visual just to make it easier to go through it. Most of what I am showing you has already been released. If it has not yet been released, I'll tell you if it's coming soon or it's being released today, which we actually just ran a release last night. So most of this is already out in the public in production for you to start using right away. And I'll mention anything that's coming out shortly. Okay, so this is engagement. This is all about donor engagement, and our goal with the Engage campaign is to make it as easy as possible for you to know what you should be doing today. Okay, so just to take a look on the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's 4 sections. There's today, there's touch points, T points, which is short for touch points, contacts, and notes. So I'm going to start with the today section. And first of all, we want to create a little bit of motivation and excitement here is that every single day you set a goal, you set a goal that every single day you need to engage a certain amount of donors. So very, very simply, there's a little pencil icon and you can say, what's your daily engagement goal? And also you'll have to decide, what does engagement mean? Does engagement mean that you spoke to somebody on the phone? Does it mean that you had 5 great 5-minute phone conversations? Does it mean that you sent 5 text messages? So everybody needs to decide what is going to be their challenge, and we're flexible with that, and you decide what is a completed touch point. So engagement is when you complete a touch point, that is considered an engagement, and so you decide, by completing a touch point, you've established what that is. Now, obviously, most people don't work 7 days a week. Especially Shabbos. So you have the ability to decide what days of the week are you going to focus on this. So obviously the default is going to be 5 days a week, and this part of the streak is going to be released next week. But the goal will be is that you choose what days streaks count on. So if you skip Sunday and Saturday, your streak will still continue because you've decided that you're only going to engage people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, if somebody says, I'm only going to focus on donors Monday, Tuesday, but I'm going to focus on getting 20 on Monday and 20 on Tuesday, and that's the way you want to structure your schedule, you could do that too, and your streak will still play out even though you don't do anything on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's the way you set it up. So you have your daily engagement goal. This is how many donors you're engaged. You'll show you your current streak, and it'll also show you your best streak. So you see where you're holding now, and shows you some motivation. And this is obviously crucial to habit building. You really want to do, you consistently want to do better. This is built into a lot of the best fitness apps and other apps that are self-help apps and so on, and to find a way for you to do better. And then we make it very simple. We don't overwhelm you with all of your touch points you have, because you could have 500 touch points that are waiting for you to get done. We only want to show you 5 touch points at a time in the today section. And so there's going to be what you need to do, do. These are touch points that have already been set up, either manually or in automated fashion, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you can mark those touch points as done simply by swiping it, and it will mark it as done. This is just a mock-up, so it won't actually do it. You can also edit it by clicking on it, and then also if you want to snooze it, you can just go like that. And again, this is just a mock-up, so it doesn't work perfectly, but then you can swipe it to the left and then choose when do you want to move this touch point to. And so therefore it makes it easier. It won't be marked as done, but you say, what, this person's not ready for a call yet, or I just found out he's out of town, I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And you can mark it as tomorrow, and then it would disappear until tomorrow. So you always can add more touch points by showing more. Now we have a suggested touch point section. This is going to be released by the end of most likely by the end of September or in the beginning of October. You are going to be to create a system of suggested touch points. It means they're not touch points automatically, but these are things that we suggest that you reach out to them based on certain criteria, which I'll show you soon. So this is an example. You haven't connected with Jake in over 90 days. Maybe you should add him as a touch point. So we'll add it as a touch point. Rosa has not donated in over 11 months. So if you're integrating your PhoneRaise app with your CRM, with Salesforce, let's say, or Bloomerang, and you're bringing in their last donation date and donation amount, you'll know there's Rosa has not donated in the last 11 months. It's time to reach out to her and start engaging her. Charles' birthday is next month. Set a reminder to contact him. So all of these are suggested touch points that you have the ability to do, and I'll show you how you can set those up in the back end, how you will be able to set those up in the back end. So those are suggested touch points, and you can choose if you want to remove it and so on. Now you can see all of your suggested touch points in one place. You'll see which ones are active. So you can see all of these. You can trash it. If it's trashed, it goes into the dismissed, and you can control how long it stays in the dismissed. Or you can, from the active list, you can see all of your suggestions and then add them over here. So that is the today section. Now going into touch points, we've set this up separately. Until now, touch points there was touch points, and then there's activities. Touch points were open touch points, and activities were completed touch points. We're changing now. Everything is called touch points, but you have open touch points and you have completed touch points, and they're all in one section. So you can see all of your upcoming touch points. Everything here is searchable and filterable and sortable, and you'll be able to easily, if you want to just filter based on a person, or there's other filter options, you can do that. And again, it's the same process of snoozing or marking it as done. Or you can call a person, and that's the other piece I didn't discuss, but you can do the same thing in the today section. But from this spot, you can call, text, email, WhatsApp, and then you choose the template that you want to use. So there's default templates. You can create messaging templates, very similar to the way it's set up in Raise campaigns, and you can use those templates. Now, there are other statuses, there are other options you can do besides for call, text, email, and so on, which you can also have meetings in person. There's different statuses and so on that you can do. It doesn't have to be only those things, but from the phone, obviously, the ones that you can do are calling, emailing, texting, and sending WhatsApp messages. And then you can see all your completed touch points here as well. Okay, going to contacts. So contacts is now a lot more streamlined. you can now see a lot more contacts on the screen. You can also call, or you can message them from a contact. There's going to be there already are powerful filter tools to filter people based on giving date, just a whole bunch of different information pieces. So if you only want to see a certain group of contacts, you can do that. You can also go into a contact. Let's go up here. If you can go into a contact. Here, you can go into a contact and see all of their information. So any custom information that's brought in about that contact, it's all here. You can see any upcoming touch points here, activities, completed touch points in the situation, any notes. All of that will still be available per person basis. So there's sometimes you want to just look at a specific person. You can definitely do that. And you can also search for a specific person here, so on. Now, what you've noticed also on this up here, that every single screen has a plus sign. So wherever you are, you say, you know what, I want to add somebody in. You can very simply add a new touch point, add a new note, or add a contact very quickly. And no matter what screen you are, you always have the ability to do that. Okay. And the notes are tied to a contact. So if you have a good phone conversation with somebody, you want to leave a note that will either can go into if you sync it with Salesforce or Bloomerang currently, and you have the ability to leave notes connected to a person. And obviously that can be very powerful if you have certain conversations where information needs to be done. Now, when you're finished making a call in this part, so all of this is already available. One thing that we're adding in, we already have a structure, but it's going to be enhanced. When you call somebody or you text somebody, after you complete that, it's going to ask you, okay, what happened on the call? Is this touch point complete? Yes, it's completed. I texted them. Okay, now what do you want to do? Do you want to add a touch point, a follow-up touch point with Jake? So you don't have to go back in and create a new touch point from the top. Right away, it's going to prompt you. Maybe you had a good call or a good text, and you want to follow up in 2 weeks to create another touch point and call them then. You can immediately do that there. Or if you don't want to do that, you can click on more options and then do other things. You can see all of the touch points for Jake. You can add a note. You can add a different touch point not connected to that, or you can view the contact details. So it gives you at your fingertips some suggestions of what we think you might want to do after you've initiated some type of activity with a person. Okay, there's going to be some type of follow-up that you're probably going to want to do with that person, and on the spot you can go and manage all of those options, and that's going to be rolled out also at the end of September. There is a basic follow-up now, but it's not as powerful as this currently is. Okay, so that's the front end. Let's go into the back end. Let me see if there's any questions first, and then we'll go into the back end. Okay, based on what are you suggesting touch points each day? I'll show you in the back end. We are building a touch points automation section, and I'll show you how that works. And then the question is what type of data you put into PhoneRaise. So we have some different guides in the help section, but just to answer that very shortly, you're going to be bringing in contact information. You obviously want to bring in some basic donor information. So most importantly, their last donation date and amount. You could bring in donor information like how many donations they've given, how much they've given to an organization lifetime, how much they've given in the past year. There's really depends on your strategy and what you're trying to accomplish. But you could also bring in first donation amount and first donation date. But you want to put in some basic information that gives you an idea of how often they're giving and how recently they've given. If there's one data point that you need to bring in, and when it comes to donation data, it's going to be the last donation date and the last donation amount. And of course, there's a whole host of other custom information you could bring in, like affiliations, like who they're, could be what they're, what events they've attended within an organization. It really will depend on the strategy that you have with fundraising and what information and what data you want to know. So that's an open-ended question, and the answer will be different for every person. And we do not have an integration with CiviCRM at this time. We are solely focused on, currently we have integrations with Zapier, Bloomerang, and Salesforce. Our next round of integrations will probably focus on Virtuous and a couple of other CRMs, but CiviCRM is not on our roadmap at this time. And let me see if there's any other questions. Yes, I answered CiviCRM. Our program will not work with CMS, for sure not the desktop version. At some point it may work with the cloud version, but it's not on the roadmap right now. Okay, is there any other questions? We don't have any plans to work with Facebook, especially because Facebook, for the most part, is private, so you can't access private, individual people's posts. Generally, only companies. Um, but that might be something we play around with social media stuff and so on. And let me talk about integrations in a little bit later. Notes does get added to Salesforce and Bloomerang, and yes, and it would be connected to that person. It will depend on how you structure and set that up. But let's go to the back end of the Engage campaigns, and we'll go from there. So first of all, this is a very similar layout. It's basically the same layout that you saw in Raise campaigns. It's a grid of contacts, but there is definitely different pieces of data over here that are going to be important. So first of all, you'll see donation history, contact information, and custom data that can be brought in. One thing that's different than the Raise campaign is what engagement information is going to be different. So first of all, you can see here you can have multiple fundraisers in an Engage campaign. It's slightly similar to the way you can have multiple volunteers in a Raise campaign. You can have multiple fundraisers. So if your organization has 5, 6 fundraisers, they can each get access and become a user. And you can see who owns which donor. You can see this is some basic donation information: last donation amount, last donation date. We have as an example here average donation amount that they give, a median donation, how many total donations. So this is just general donation information. We have some scoring. Again, these are all just suggested ideas. And then you see over here we have contact information, which obviously you will want to have their phone number, email, home phone number. Potentially you may want to have secondary information from a spouse, and all of that will show up in here. Now, this is really a very, very powerful piece of the Engage campaign. So first of all, it'll tell you the last activity you had with them. What was the activity type? Was it a phone call? Was it a message? Was it a donation or a request for a meeting? So all of these are different activity types. And again, just like we had before, the status types in a Raise campaign, last donated on call or texted, that were customizable. These activity types are customizable as well. And it tells you the last activity date. Again, you could sort these and see the last activity dates. And it'll also tell you what your next touch point activity is. Is it going to be do I have a phone call with this person? When is that due? So you can sort all of this over here and see all of that. Now, this has changed a little bit. What this is going to be completed touch points. Instead of quarter, we're going to focus on year goals, but you can see over the past year, how many completed touch points did you have with this person? And then you can also set goals, individual goals for each person. How many touch points do I want to have with this person in the year? Do I want to have 10 touch points, 12 touch points? Do I want to do a quarterly? So that's going to be 4 touch points. So you'll be able to, in a very clear way, create goals and see if you're on pace, and you'll see that very clearly by showing the percentage of touch points complete. So if you have a goal of 10 touch points for this year, and you've completed 5 of them, so you'll see that you're at a 50% rate. Also, what we're adding in over here, and you do need to do this manually, but it can be a very powerful thing, is what's the ask amount? And again, this is going to be per year, but what's the ask amount I want this person to give this year? And then you can put in how much they've actually raised, and you can see what percentage of your goal you're up to. So right now, this is going to be more of a manual piece. You're going to have to put this in manually, but we will look at ways to automate this and make this much faster and much more powerful. But it'll be a very, very nice visual and clearly to understand what's going on with each individual person and see if you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish with each individual donor. Eventually, there'll also be statistics, overall goals, if you're reaching your goals on an overall basis, total touch points, and so on and so forth. So you'll really create some motivation to complete those goals. Then there's also total completed touch points, so not just based on year, but in the lifetime of using PhoneRaise, how many completed touch points you have, and also notes. So also, if you click, a lot of these things are clickable. So if I click on notes over here, it'll show me all notes I have for this individual person, Ava Pearson. If I click on touch points, it'll show me the completed touch points that I have with this person, and so on. Now that we've gone through a person over here, you can, when you click on a person, you have a whole host of data to look at a person. So first of all, any touch points that a person has, upcoming touch points, you can, in the back end, you don't only have to work from a phone, but in the back end, you can mark touch points as completed. You can edit touch points, you can delete touch points on an individual basis. You can see what's overdue, what's due today, due later. All of this is going to be fully available by the end of September as well. again, you can see completed touch points, all of the notes we discussed, dates. Now, dates is going to be a very, very powerful piece. Again, this is going to be probably released in October, but you have the ability to add dates for individual person, right? So we talked about how important it is to call people on their special dates. So you have a date section here where you can add a date. What is the date? What's the name of the date? What's the description of the date name? When is this date? And then you have this date locked in. There could be a note there that's added as well. But you have these dates all over here, and I'll show you soon how those can be activated. And then profiles, all of the additional custom information that you have about this person, all of that is here. So you can see all of that. Now, let's dive into, I'm going to move around a little bit over here, and I'm going to go into the touchpoint automation. So this is the suggested touchpoints, and it's actually renamed suggested touchpoints. And what this is where you can choose what do you want. You can decide what should be suggested as a touchpoint, and or what should become immediately a touchpoint. So you'll see over here in the action, you have 3 action options: create a touchpoint, create a suggestion, so that allows the fundraiser to decide, do I want to add this touch point? So creating a touch point, it automatically becomes a touch point. Create a suggestion means, okay, I'm nudging you to say, do you want to call this person? It might be a good idea, and the person can say yes or no on the spot. Or do nothing is nothing happens. It doesn't get suggested, or it doesn't become an automatic touch point. So there's basically 4 categories over here. So if there's been no completed touch points in a certain amount of days, right? There's been no engagement. Well, it might be time to trigger a suggestion or a touch point. So you choose the date. Is it if this person has not been engaged in 3 months, which is a quarter? So then automatically create a touch point. What type of touch point should it be? Should it be a phone call, text message, email, meeting? Add a little description. And when is that due date? So is that due date effective immediately from when the 90 days hits? Or is it going to be the day after 90 days hit, 7 days from after 90 days, or 30 days from after 90? So you can also control a little bit how immediate that touch point becomes, and you decide. So you can say automatically every 90 days, if there's no touch point with that person, automatically create a touch point, and boom, that touch point is created. So once you do this, once you set up your PhoneRaise, in theory, what you can do is once you import your data, you can actually never have to set up touch points again, because you could just create dynamic automated touch points, and as long as you set it for every 30 days or every 9 days, it'll just automatically recycle the next touch point because you haven't completed anything in the last 30 days. And then boom, you don't even have to worry about what your next touch point or adding manually touch points. Yes, you can always add manually if you want to meet with somebody, but you can create a structure in a system where you're constantly getting a refresh of new touch points coming in. So that's one section, no completed touch points in 90 days. If a person has not made a donation in the last X amount of days, again, you choose the amount of days. Do you want to create a touch point? Do you want to create a suggestion? So again, this is a way to prompt somebody. Maybe you've been in touch with them, but they haven't given in the last year. So this will really help with lapsed donors that, hey, you've been in touch with them, but this will remind you that it's time to ask them for a donation because maybe in the last 180 days or last 360 days they haven't donated, and so on. Again, this will be very powerful if you're integrated with a CRM. Special dates. So we just showed you in the back end how you add a special date. So again, here, it's a slightly different structure, but you create do you want to suggest the touch point or create the touch point? And basically what that means is that when the special date comes around, automatically create a touch point to remind the person to call or email, or do you want it to, so you choose if it's a suggestion. And when do you want that to happen? Should it happen on the birthday? So should the touch point show up? Should the due date be on the birthday? Should it be a day before the birthday? Maybe you want to call somebody in advance of their birthday, or maybe it's let's say it's a yard site and you want to remind them that the yard site's coming up, so you want to do it 7 days before. So you can set how far before the actual special date is there. And then if you look over here, so that's when that touch point would show up and be applied. And then after donation is made, you can again choose if you want to create a suggestion or touch point, what type of communication it's going to be, and then does that happen the day immediately, or does it happen the next day, in 7 days, and 30 days? So you have some control over that. Now you can also, right, if you remember in the app, you have suggested touch points. So how long do you want to keep suggested touch points alive for you to look at in the app. Do you want it to be for 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, or do you want to and then in the dismiss section where you sort of archive them, the archive section, how long should it stay in there? So the default is 7 days in the suggested touch point section, and 1 day, like it gives you 1 day sort of grace period after you've trashed it to keep it around in case you change your mind. You can pull it back for 1 day. Again, you can make it 7 days and 30 days as well. So that is the touch point feature. So I'll stop here and answer any questions. So that's a good question. Will a birth date sync with the CRM? The answer is as of now, no. We have to be very careful because most CRMs honestly do not do a good job of managing special dates. They'll do a birth date and that's it. And then every CRM will have custom fields and so on. So we want to create a way where there is a dynamic way to do that. But most likely, the way that we're going to create that is that you'll do an import. You'll do either manually, one at a time, or we can create an import option that you can pull all of special dates at one time and do a one-time import, which we'll have to think about how to do that. So that's something that we definitely want to play with and think about. But right now, it'll be a one thing. Right now, we do not have a integration with Dynamic CRM. Again, we're in the early stages of our integrations. We definitely want to build out a lot of integrations with CRMs. It's going to be very powerful, and so on. Yes, there are notifications. I think I missed that in the app over here. But if you go to the account section, so you'll see there's notification settings. This is actually much more advanced than we have right now. Right now, we have the option to do push notifications and text message notifications. Right now, the default is if you donate, you can set it up to get a push notification every morning at 11 o'clock and a text message every evening. We will be building out more smart notifications, which we'll get to soon, but essentially will allow you to create more rules based on notifications. But there are very basic notifications that are prompting you and reminding you to complete your touch points. Okay, notifications are prompted, are daily prompts as long as you have any touch points that are due or overdue. Let's see if there is any other questions, and I'll move on to that. We'll finish up real quick. Okay, there's a lot of questions about integrations. I'm going to move on because it's going to take us forever to answer all those different questions. But the answer is that there are integrations for Salesforce and Bloomerang and Zapier. We do not have any integrations for anything else right now. It's on our plan to build more integrations and especially more powerful integrations with birth dates and milestones and some other pieces as well. Okay, just to finish up over here, we discussed campaign, we discussed contacts. Here's where you set your users per campaign. There is an overall user section setting. So the way it works is you upload all of your users that you want to use, and then you can deploy them on different campaigns as you see fit. So these have been, in this situation, we're in a campaign called Smile on Seniors, and these are the 7 or 8 users that have been deployed to work on the Smile on Senior campaigns. We have a full touchpoint section that you can see all of the touchpoints that you've created. We do have labels that will help you sort and filter based on specific touchpoints. You can see the due dates and so on, and you also have the ability to see what's complete and what's not complete. So these are all showing completed and non-completed. You can choose to see complete or only completed or only uncompleted. And so on. This is a notes section, so you can create notes in the back end just like you created in the front end. And then the campaign settings, again, you have messaging templates similar to the Raise campaign, similar donor display structure in the Raise campaign. There's a number of different settings. The touchpoint automations I showed you, and the third-party apps will be the place where you integrate Zapier and your CRMs. So that pretty much wraps it up. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. The one thing that I just want to finish up with over here is just to highlight what is. Sorry, one second. Just to highlight what we've recently released and what is coming soon. So first of all, what we've done is we've completely updated our pricing. Instead of our original way that we've priced it, we are now charging as affordable as we can make it. $25 per user per month, and that's a flat fee, includes everything. If somebody does need onboarding help, that is an additional cost. We're trying to make this as self-serve as possible, but you can add and you can scale up and scale down per month. So let's say you have a matching day, a matching campaign with 100 volunteers, and you need 100 seats for that campaign. So for that month, you'd pay for 100 seats, which would be $2,500. But then you can scale back down to your 2 or 3 fundraisers or one fundraiser, and then go back to your standard $25, $50, $75 a month. So it makes it very, very flexible. You only pay for the seats. You pay for the seats that the seat amount that you selected, and it's a very clear-cut pricing structure. Volunteer self-serve raise campaign, that is the part of in the raise campaign, the Google Contact integration, as well as the ability to select donors from an organization's list. That has been recently released. The Streaks has been released as of yesterday. We released that, and the Today section was released yesterday as well. So that is fully available, coming soon. This touchpoint automation, as well as the dates and all of that suggested, is coming most likely by the end of the month, if not first week in October. Guided onboarding, this will probably happen by the end of the year, is we want to add more powerful prompts to make it easier for you to understand what the next steps are when you're getting started. And smart notifications. Like I said, right now we have the ability to send daily text messages and daily push notifications to complete any any touch points. Eventually, we're going to make that a lot more powerful. You can choose the time of day. You can choose when you get a notification, why you get a notification, and so on. And you'll have a lot more control over that. The first quarter of 2025, I don't have it on this list, but we're going to be focused on a lot more on CRM integrations. We also plan for the Raise campaign and for Engage campaigns, we also are planning a Chrome extension. So we know a lot of people will want to use this at their desk. And similar to the app, the phone app, we want to have the ability to have a Chrome extension where you can essentially do everything that you could do on an app, but sitting in front of your desk. That's something we want to implement. Native dialing. Right now, you need to you can call from the app, but it puts you into your actual dialer browser, and then you can go back into the app. We want to actually build that dialer into the phone, into the app, so it saves you time, makes the process more seamless. And there's a lot more AI pieces that, in addition to the automations that we're creating, we definitely want to take advantage of the latest AI trends and make your data smarter and suggest data based on a lot of different pieces, which we hope to implement in the first or second quarter of 2025. Okay, that is the end of that. I'm happy to answer any questions that we have. So I'm looking at a couple of places. Let me first start in the question section. And I'm not going to answer any questions about integrations because, again, it's going to be the answer is going to be it depends, and a lot of times it's coming at some point in the future. Based on what are we suggesting touch points each day? I think we explained that. That is based on either a milestone, like a date, a last donation amount, or recent donation. Sorry, last donation date or recent donation, or lack of activity. That's how suggested touch points are showing up. Chaim, if you want to restate your question, then I can answer that. And then let's see in the chat. Okay. If you have CRMS, PhoneRaise is still relevant because because CMS doesn't have any of these dynamic touch point suggestions and processes to engage donors. Unfortunately, it would be two distinctly separate systems. The way you'd have to do that is I would suggest doing a quarterly, the donation data would be old, so you wouldn't be able to use it for that, but you can still use it for donor engagement, and that's valuable. So every quarter, upload a new batch of contacts, and then use it for donor engagement, and then you can export anything. You have to export notes and so on back into your CMS, which I believe can be done. $25 per month does include Raise campaign. So yes, it's the same price. It's just per user. So So if you're going to have a raise campaign with 10 volunteers that month, so you're going to have to increase your seat usage to 25. One thing, the way it will work is you can actually upload 2,000 users or whatever, a crazy amount of users. When it says $25 per seat, that's per active seat. So if we go back into the app real quick here, pull that up. If we go back over here, you'll see, if we go to the user section, you'll see a toggle switch that says active. So you can actually have, and I have total users, I have active users. I'm allowed 12 users, and that's what I'm allowed. And I can upload more users. I just cannot make them active. So you can have 100 users, but only 12, because my plan is only for 12 users right now. I can only have 12 users active at a time. So technically what you could do, if you have a race campaign, if you have 100 volunteers coming night 1 and 100 volunteers coming night 2, you only need 100 active seats, because you can after the first group of volunteers is done on day 1, you can deactivate them and then activate the next, and then you can activate the next group of volunteers. Yeah, so 25 a month per user. That is the price. Okay, if there's any other questions, we'll hang around for another minute or two. Otherwise, thank you guys very much. And if you have any questions about FoneRaise, you can go to fundraise.com and get started with a free trial, a free 7-day trial. After that, if you just sign up with one user, it's $25 per person. We try to make it as affordable as possible. And you can get started with a free trial. We do have a help section, which we're constantly adding new documentation called help, and you can find that at help.fundraise.com. You're welcome to get started. If you have any questions, you can email help@fundraise.com, and somebody will answer any questions that you have. And hoping that we see you soon using PhoneRaise. All the best. Okay, question, if there's a way to have Google Sheets with contact information, and when you update it, updates the app. So I've always wanted to do that, to have a dynamic integration with Google Sheets. It gets tricky because Google Sheets is a very open data set, meaning with a CRM, you're pretty much restricted to certain data. If you have Google Sheets, you can technically put other data points in there. It's much easier to make mistakes and have corrupt and bad data. It is something that I would like to look at in the future. But ultimately, you really should be pulling data from a CRM. And if you do have, by the way, if you do have a app, when I say there's no integration, it means there's no direct integration. But if you have an app that works with Zapier, which Google Sheets does, so then you should be able to implement what you want to do with any tool that uses Zapier, which should work with PhoneRaise. So, for example, data sheets works with PhoneRaise, and so in that way, if you have Zapier, Google Sheets will work with PhoneRaise. Okay, thank you guys very much, and again, feel free to reach out and ask any questions that you may have. Take care.